Hello dear students, good morning. Myself Professor S. Bhendigeri, Department of Economics, are taking online classes for PUC second year commerce students. Dear students, in the last class we have understood the most important topic, that is money and banking. After that, now let us come to the next topic, that is unit number 4. Title of the unit is a determination of income and employment. Okay. So here this particular topic is technical in nature as good as statistics subject. It is very interesting topic and also technical topic. You have to pay maximum attention over here to understand this particular subject, topic for example, okay. Especially I wanted you students to take live class of this particular topic, but due to that pandemic, we are unable to take live classes. Very soon I think we are going to meet in the live class. Here this particular topic is related to determination of income and employment. How income and employment concepts are determined in an economy. In an economy like India, how income of a country is determined and employment is also how it is determined. Okay, these things we have to understand in this particular topic. There are few diagrams and few equations coming over here. With the help of those diagrams and equations, you have to understand this particular topic. To understand income and employment, first we have to understand what is the meaning of autonomous consumption. Okay, look at the meaning of autonomous consumption. The consumption which is independent of income. It is very interesting, my dear students. There are different types of consumptions. Okay, autonomous consumption means this type of consumption never depends upon income. If our income is 0, if it is maximum, if it is less, for example, there is no, for example, difference in case of such kind of consumption. Okay. Here there is no question of income of an individual. Okay. Irrespective of income of an individual, if any type of consumption is there, that is called as autonomous consumption. Okay. In that autonomous consumption, you have to understand meaning of marginal propensity to consume, MPC, that is called as. They may ask in the examination for match the following question, or else fill in the blank question, or else objective question, or else for example in multiple choice question about this particular question, that is meaning of marginal propensity to consume. MPC means it is the rate of change in consumption as income changes. MPC means what? What amount of change in consumption occurs due to change in income. As income changes, our consumption pattern, what happens? Goes on changes. But sometimes consumption always never depends on income. Okay, and sometimes it is depends. It depends, for example, there are some goods and services which human being requires irrespective of income, for example, and there are some goods and services which human being requires on the basis of his capacity of income. I hope you understood. Okay. If there is a consumption which never depends upon income, that is called autonomous consumption. Okay. The MPC value, its value lies between 0 to 1. This point you have to understand over here. In the multiple choice question they may ask, the value of MPC is lies between so and so, like that. Options will be 0.1, 1.2, 0.2, like that. The right option for that question is 0 to 1. I'll tell you how it is. Why the value lies between 0 to 1 when it comes to marginal propensity to consume? The consumer not to change his consumption even when income changes. In this case, MPC is equal to 0. Listen, sometimes what happens? If the income of an individual goes on changes, but there is no change in the consumption. Consumption remains the same. That situation is called as MPC is equal to 0. And when he use entire change in income on consumption, it means what? As income goes on changes, in support of that, if he goes on changes his consumption, at that time MPC becomes equal to 1. It means if the income of an individual goes on increases, his consumption also increases. If the income of an individual goes on decreases, and in consumption also what happens? Start declining. Okay, I hope you understood. If there is a direct relationship between income and consumption, in that time MPC is equal to, value of the MPC is equal to 1, for example. If there is a inverse or opposite relationship between income and consumption, at that time MPC value lies at 0, for example. And sometimes what happens, MPC, sometimes it may be less than 1 or more than 0. But always this value lies between 0 to 1. And consumption never exceed income. One more important thing you have to understand here. Consumption never exceed income. Means our consumption is never go beyond our income, for example. Suppose if our income is 3,000 rupees per month, we never increase our consumption more than that 3,000. I hope you understood. Why? If we are going to increase our own consumption more than our income, it is not possible to, for example, survive our life. Because of that, consumption never exceeds income. And it is explained with the help of following equation. Look at the equation. MPC, marginal propensity to consume, is equal to delta C upon delta Y. Delta C means change in the consumption divided by delta Y. Y indicates income. Okay, is equal to marginal propensity to consume. C means consumption. Okay. So with the help of this equation, we are able to understand the MPC. Now look at another important aspect, that is meaning of ex ante. Ex ante and meaning of ex post. These two aspects are very interesting to understand the further part of the determination of income and employment. Ex ante depicts what has been planned. Listen to me carefully. It depicts what has been planned, what we are going to plan. Meaning of ex post depicts what has actually happened. What was our plan and what was actually happened. Suppose if you are going to market with 100 rupees to purchase your own, for example, requirements. In the beginning, you have gone to market with 100 rupees. When you are entering into market and purchasing different goods, your for example, consumption or expenditure, for example, consumption expenditure may goes on increases and it exceeds your income. For example, if you are gone to market with 100 and while coming back to home your expenditure will be 120, it is because of your, for example, consumption expenditure. It is because of change in the price of the goods and services. It happens. Okay, it happens. So when you are understanding the difference between these two, that is called as meaning of ex ante and meaning of ex post, you are able to understand the determination of income and employment topic. Okay, look at the next point, the excess demand. Excess demand is also a very important topic to understand here. It means excess demand situation arises when the demand is more than the level of output. Okay, what amount of output is there in the economy and what is the demand for that? If the demand for example, goods is greater than the available output, that is called as excess demand. Here, if there is excess demand in the market, it, for example, pumps, it increases the price of the commodity and more money chasing to the few goods in excess demand situation. Okay, when demand is more than, for example, available resource, available output, automatically consumers are ready to pay any price for that particular product. That is called as excess demand. Look at the deficient demand. Is the situation when the aggregate demand is less than the aggregate supply. Deficient demand means when the demand for goods is less than the available supply of goods, for example. It happens in, for example, deflation condition. Excess demand situation arises in inflation situation. It increases inflation, and deficient demand, for example, increases deflation in the economy. Okay, inflation means it is a process of deliberate increase in the price level. Continuous increase in the price level is called as excess, for example, inflation. Okay. So, deficient demand is the situation when the aggregate demand is less than the aggregate supply. Now coming to the meaning of autonomous consumption. Repeatedly you have to understand here, when the level of consumption is independent of income and consumption function describes the relationship between consumption and income. Okay, what I mean to say here is, to understand consumption function, you have to understand again autonomous consumption here. When the level of consumption is independent of income, it means autonomous consumption is nothing but the consumption of an individual is always independent of his own income. There is no relation between income and consumption when it comes to autonomous consumption. Okay, and consumption function describes the relationship between consumption and income. Consumption is the function of, okay, I hope you understood. Consumption function describes the relationship between consumption and income. These two are functioning here. When consumption and income are functioning togetherly, that is called as consumption function, for example. Okay, now let's look at the meaning of marginal propensity to save, MPS. It is the change in savings per unit of change in income. As our income goes on changes, the amount of save in the banks and institutions, the amount of savings of an individual, what happens? Changes. That is called as marginal propensity to save. It can be explained with the help of S plus C is equal to 1. S means savings plus consumption is equal to 1, and MPS is equal to delta savings divided by delta Y is equal to savings. Okay, delta S means change in the savings due to delta Y means change in the income. It is the degree of responsiveness of change in the savings due to change in the income of an individual is called as marginal propensity to save. Look at the next one, that is average propensity to save, ABC. Sorry, wrongly that has been written ABC, that it is actually APC. Okay, average propensity to save. It is the savings per unit of income. APS is equal to S upon Y. Savings per unit of income means as our income per unit income goes on increases, how our savings increase in the banks and institutions. Okay, I hope you understood. As the per unit of income goes on increases, depending on that, our savings also what happens goes on increases, that is called as APS, means average propensity to consume. Here, it is calculated by measuring the total level of output of the economy. Okay, it is calculated by measuring the total level of output of the economy. Look at the next aspect, the monetary policy and fiscal policy. These two are the variables which influence the aggregate demand. The monetary policy of the economy and fiscal policy of the economy are the two important variables or weapons or instruments which influence the aggregate demand. In monetary policy, we are going to learn that bank rate policy, open market operations, cash reserve ratio. Okay, these are the part and parcel of monetary policy. In fiscal policy, public revenue and expenditure. Okay, these two are the main important aspects of fiscal policy. When there are changes in these areas, automatically it influences the aggregate demand. Okay, so that is called monetary policy and fiscal policy are the two weapons, variables which influence the aggregate demand. Now look at the meaning of investment multiplier. It means the ratio of the total increment in equilibrium value of final goods output to the initial increment in autonomous expenditure is called as investment multiplier. Okay, I hope you understood. The ratio of the total increment in equilibrium value of final goods. How there is an increase in the output of final goods. That is always depends upon the initial increment in the autonomous expenditure. As autonomous expenditure goes on increases, it influences increase in the value of final goods, for example. Investment multiplier can be explained with the help of below equation, that is delta y upon delta a bar is equal to I upon I minus C is equal to I upon S. I means investment. Here delta y is total increment in final goods. Y is equal to A is equal to aggregate demand, for example, and C is consumption. I is equal to investment. So whatever amount of change in the expenditure leads to change in the output of final goods. Okay, this is all about the introduction part of the determination of income and wealth. Remaining further part of the remaining topic we shall discuss in the next class.